talk about. Very cool. Anyway, so
Yeah.
shall we begin
Yes.
our discussion today?
Yes, please. Shall
And
we start with Nembutsu?
yeah, why not? Let's
Uh,
let's do some gasho and nimbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Amida-Butsu.
Namo
Namo
Amida Butsu.
Amida-Butsu.
Namo
Namo
Amida
Amida-Butsu.
Namanda.
Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Namanda.
So first I wanted to ask, is there anything on that you've been contemplating, as it were?
Yeah, the only well with there's some things that occurred to me as I was going through. I'm still going through the larger sutra again. I'm going through it again, and that kind of occurred to me when I was going through the while Dharmacara is giving his vows, listing the
Mm-hmm.
48 vows. That was similar to, but I want to look at it again to see if it was similar to my realization about the
Mm.
three lotus grades of lotuses that it talks about. That the implicate, one says, well, they are basically, the medium grade. At the end, it says, well, this is basically equal to the high grade. And
Mm.
then it says, for the lower grade, it says this is equivalent to the medium grade. So that means the lower grade is equivalent to the. Do you see what I mean? and
Yeah.
and and so it's kind of like that hint. It's like a kind of hidden in plain sight that the original vow, the primal vow that
Right.
that any the bamboo can just through um you
Yes.
know sincere mind, and entrusting, aspiring or being aspired, I should say, to go to Amitabha's Pure Land and saying Nembutsu, or, saying Amida's call. It's nothing of our doing, but it's kind of that the realization that it's kind of hinting there that this is the real, you know, this is it. There's no difference. So why make a
Yes.
big, why go through all this? Do you know what I mean? You don't need to try to do all that and fail, because most of you will,
Mm.
unless you're extraordinary beings, Um, do you see what I mean? So I had a similar notion when I was when I was listening this week to the larger sutra, to the 48 vows. I thought, wait a minute, I need to go back and listen to that again. But I haven't been able to really kind of confirm that, if you see what I mean.
Mhm.
There was certain things that were said. I'm like, is that kind of saying that's sort of a similar thing? Do you know what I mean? So anyway, but
Yeah.
I'll come back to it and then we'll discuss it more. But then there were some other things. But I thought maybe this week um, we could have the discussion you were saying two episodes ago about
Yes.
um, you had listened to my video and you wrote down some thoughts and you got
Mm.
some texts that or sort of confirm or
Mm.
affirm that experience, or what I was saying in that video. So if you'd like to do that, we can do that. Shall I? I'll set it up so you can share.
Oh, yes,
You've got them
please.
ready,
Thank you.
or if you want me to search, let me know. But
I do have them. Well, I think the first thing that came, I was struck by with your when you had that sort of realization, as it were, while through reading the larger sutra about in Honi and saying, Jinin Honi happens, as it were. it's it,
yeah, yeah,
and it's it is that we are being worked on, so to speak. It's not my working, my struggle to figure it out, to comprehend it. We love to to have it all, as human beings, we just want to puzzle it through and get that, that sort of knowledge high, as it were, of knowing and having it all, sorted out.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
just the way our brains, evolved to like that kind of thing, right? But of course, our brains, our minds are very much um not seeing things as they truly are, right?
Exactly.
Hence the problem. And so I was kind of thinking if it might not be a good idea to sort of reread Shinron's letter on Jinin Honi for for a start,
Yeah.
because
Excellent.
I can't say for sure, but I think that as we read this, suddenly it'll be like a new text almost,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
in the light of the larger sutra, we'll be like, wow. So I kind of want to try that.
Okay.
And then
I,
I
w-
also
I was also
have
thinking of I was thinking about we should read uh depending on what time we had and everything, we should read the definition in the glossary, the of Shinron works, collected works of Shinron, the for Jin and Hone
yeah, that would be
as
good
well,
too.
because that
And I
seems to
think
be
yeah, and then after that, I also have um some passages that came to mind. Well, really, the primary passages that came to mind, or passage that came to mind as I was watching your video, is also something I would like to share.
yeah,
So
sure.
let's maybe start with the letter on Jinin Honi, because I feel like a lot of times we discuss, these terms, we throw these words out there like Jinin, in naturalness, and well, what does that mean in the Shin Buddhist context, so let me try to share my screen,
Okay.
and here we go. Collected works of Shinran should be this.
I've got it up if you want. Oh, you're ready. I've got the oh, you've got it. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So one of us should probably just read through. I guess it could be me, unless you would like to read.
No, no,
I
please
think
go.
I should probably
We could
read
do
since I
yeah,
have.
yeah. Exactly.
All right. So this is, of course, the famous letter from Matosho, or the collection of letters by Shinran entitled "The Lamp for the Latter Ages," and it's interesting. This particular letter, also appears in the edition of Shinran's Wasan, these hymns in Japanese, that was printed in woodblock, printed by Rinyo Shoni. And I believe in that edition, it is inserted into, and it does seem that I am correct, the end of the
Mm,
hymns of the Dharma ages, or the
mm,
Shozo Matsu Wasan. So we can tell from that for Rinyo, this letter is very important. So much so that he selected it specifically to be included at the conclusion of the three cycles of Japanese hymns by Shinran Shoni. So I think it's not a mistake to um, really pay attention to what this letter has to say, right?
definitely. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah. There's
Okay, so that said, I will read it. Let's listen to the Dharma here. On Jinin Honi. Concerning Jinin, in the phrase Jinin Honi, Ji means of itself, not through the practicer's calculation. It signifies being made so. Nin means to be made so. It is not through the practicer's calculation. It is through the working of the Tathagata's vow. Concerning Honi, Honi signifies being made so through the working of the Tathagata's vow. It is the working of the vow where there is no room for calculation on the part of the practicer. Know, therefore, that in other power, no working is true working. Jinin signifies being made so from the very beginning. Amida's vow is, from the very beginning, designed to bring each of us to entrust ourselves to it, saying Namu Amida Butsu, and to receive us into the Pure Land. None of this is through our calculation. Thus, there is no room for the practicer to be concerned about being good or bad. I'll just reread that one more time. Thus, there is no room for the practicer to be concerned about being good or bad. This is the meaning of Jinin as I have been taught. As the essential purport of the vow, Amida vowed to bring us all to become Supreme Buddha. Supreme Buddha is formless, and because of being formless, is called Jinin. Buddha, when appearing with form, is not called Supreme Nirvana. In order to make it known that Supreme Buddha is formless, the name Amida Buddha is expressly used. So I have been taught. Amida Buddha fulfills the purpose of making us know the significance of Jinin. After we have realized this, we should not be forever talking about Jinin. If we continuously discuss Jinin, that no working is true working will again become a problem of working. It is a matter of inconceivable Buddha wisdom. Shoka 2, which is the year 1258, 12th month, 14th day, Gutoku Shinran, written at the age of 86. Can you imagine Shinran was 86 when he wrote
Yeah,
this letter?
I mean, exactly. So all those writings that he wrote at those latter ages, pardon the pun, um, it's amazing. His lucidity,
yeah,
his mind, that it was so still so completely sharp and
yeah,
switched on. No doubt enabled by
it's
Amida,
incredible.
yeah, incredible. Yeah.
Oh. I think it is we're so fortunate to have these letters and these writings from Shinron's um, later years, because that means that what we're sort of, inheriting from him in terms of his spiritual thought is quite advanced, so to speak. It's matured, as it were, like a I want to say like a fine wine, if I can use that
Yeah.
analogy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, it's at its peak, depth, so to speak.
Yep.
Like, and
Yeah.
we're so fortunate that that is the case. Um, you know, well, anyway, so having now, as I was reading this, I want to know, like, what were your thoughts? Did anything
Well, the first
sort of
thing,
stand out to
well, the first
you,
thing
a
I just want to
thread?
say, yeah, the first thing I wanted to say was toward the end there. It made me think of a conversation that the part about, let's not, let's not go on about Jinnen. If you're talking incessantly about Jinnen,
Mm,
or you're mentioning Jinnen, it's kind of like I had a you think of I had a mentor kind of in the 90s that we were talking about, we would talk about humility, and one of the things he would say is, um, you know, uh, if you have, yeah, you should strive for humility, true humility, but um, you know, if you wear the humility pin, or if you win the if you wear the humility, pin or award, you lose it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's,
The
it means you
false.
didn't have it.
What do they call that?
It means you didn't have it in the first place. So I think it's a
Yeah.
similar thing here. Yeah.
Mm.
Which I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
in my
go
video, I
ahead.
was kind of like, I was trying to say that I, well, first of all, it was hard to talk about it because of the nature of it and the scope of it and the breadth of it. But the and of the subject I was talking about. But I my main thing I was thinking was that it just it just needs to be it just you don't have to do anything. You just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
already happened. It's already here. It's already
Yeah.
there. There's
Yeah.
nothing for you to sort of go on
Yeah.
about. There's nothing for you
Yeah.
to really try to figure out. There's nothing really to um that it's already, there's no need for that is what I'm trying to say. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
that was one
Exactly.
thought I had, but yeah, good.
Yeah. And it's like, and it is here, it is here and there and everywhere. I mean, primarily here because here is where I am, right? Where we and I am always nowhere else but here, right? If I am being truly present, which is a rare occurrence. But and it's here that I encounter the light, not in the Pure Land, you know. Um, it's the light is shining everywhere. There's no place, no, not the smallest, as the texts say, it's there's no dark corner of any world where the light of wisdom that is Amida is not shining. So, and that's why it says here, um, Buddha, when appearing with form, is not called Supreme Nirvana. In order to make it known that the Supreme Buddha is formless, the name Amida Buddha is expressly used. And Amida Buddha fulfills the purpose of making us know the significance of Jinin. And Amida means infinite, boundless, no no boundaries. So even the sort of picture or visualization of Amida in the Meditation Sutra is as it's described as, in incalculable dimensions. Even that visualization image is provisional because as vast as it is, it still has boundaries. It still has, some sort of limitation, right?
Yes, yes,
And the true Buddha, the true what Shinran here calls the supreme Buddha it completely transcends and goes beyond any kind of limitation, any kind of boundary, however, incredibly vast that boundary might be. And and so that's a very important point, I think, in this text. And then I really wanted
well,
to
this is the other reason we can just just relax, calm down a bit,
yes,
because you know it's wherever you go, it's there, it's happening. Whatever you do,
yeah, yeah,
it's happening.
yeah.
It's kind of like that, that image we talked about, um in of the Monkey King, you know and he's on the Buddha's
Yes,
hand.
I love.
And no matter
Yeah,
how
yeah,
far he tries to run or which direction he tries to run away, he can't get off. He's always in the Buddha's hand. You know, he
yeah,
can't.
yeah.
There's nowhere he can go that he's not on the Buddha's hand, kind of thing. Do you see what I mean? Whatever he tries to do, whatever he tries to, I just think that's a good kind of metaphor for
Mhm.
this, for us. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's great, and it's so true. I mean, there's nowhere you can go where the light is not shining from the the highest, heavens of the universe to the lowest hells.
yeah.
I mean, this light is shining. And
Oh, sorry. One other thought I had. Sorry about that. Just a
please.
thought. It just occurred to me was, and I always kind of come back to this, the Angulimala when
Mhm.
he's trying to go out and chase the Buddha, and chase after him and run after and sneak up on him and try to chase him, and he's running, he's trying to, he's going as fast as he can, and he can't catch up with the Buddha, but the Buddha's not changing his pace. He's just walking at that perfect pace because he's the Buddha. And it
Right.
just makes me think that, that kind of speaks to that. Like, why are you running? It's already here. The truth is
Yeah,
already here. The Buddha mind is already here. The Buddha, you know, it's already here. So you don't, if
yeah,
you run, it's there. If you're walking, it's there. If you sit down, it's there. If you sit, it's there. If you jump, if whatever you do, it's already there. So you can't. You,
right.
anyway, that's just another little. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. I love that story. Of course, it's one of the most famous stories in our Buddhist tradition. And yeah, there's nowhere, and the Buddha asks him, uh, because he asks the Buddha, why, stop, why are you running away? And the Buddha says, I'm not running away. I have, uh, laid aside that which is harmful to beings. And he asks, why is your mind running away? Yeah, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so powerful, a story. It almost, it kind of hits you on a whole nother level, I think, that story. And it's just really great. It's kind of similar to
Multi-dimensional.
the
Every teaching of the Buddha is just multi-dimensional, isn't it? You can.
yeah. And even a single phrase just contains,
Yeah.
so worlds of truth and meaning and
Yeah.
virtue. So
This is a
yeah,
thought that occurred to me during this time. This is
yeah.
something else that's been happening with me reading the Pure Land Sutra and realizing it's, as a Jodo Shinshu Pure Land Buddhist, in the Jodo Shinshu, you
Hmm.
know, tradition and the true teaching, that's all you need is the sutras. But um the other thing that I've been realizing is I haven't felt I haven't had that same um inclination or the same that doubt, I guess you'd say, about other religions
Mm.
like
Hmm.
Taoism or what have you, other to say maybe maybe that fits better, or maybe that's the truth. And it just occurred to me, when I look at Buddhism, I think, when I look at these other religions, I think, okay, they have some application that kind of works and makes sense. Do you know what I mean? But Buddhism is just superior. So that was used to be my thought. That was
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always Buddhism always does it better. It always does it better. So it's Buddhism always, is
Mm.
just that, but it, is supreme or whatever. But this time that thought is or the way what's occurring to me is there's nothing in Buddhism I can go, yeah, but that part doesn't. Whereas I can do that with in many
Mm.
ways with other religions and other non-Buddhist ways. Um, I can say, well, it doesn't really, and this, you kind of have to do a retcon on that, and you kind of have to do you know, some mental gymnastics over here. Whereas Buddhism, you don't have to. Buddhism,
Right.
it's good in the, it's good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. There's no place where I can say that so it's not just supreme, it's whole. It is the truth. Do you see what I mean? It's a different,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? Thing that a different, not just, it's not that it just does it better than these other things or is superior to I mean, it is superior, but there's nothing that can take that there's nothing that doesn't fit everything. There's nothing that doesn't, do you see what I'm
Mm.
saying? So
Yeah,
anyway,
I think
whereas I can say that about any other philosophy or religion, that there is something that doesn't fit or lots of things that don't, but I can't really say that about Buddhism. And that's a difference in, since I've been going through the Pure Lens, the larger sutra this time, is
mm,
that sense of completeness, I guess, wholeness of the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, whereas there isn't that in other places, other religions, other spiritual paths.
yeah, and I think it is. I mean, it is subjective, right? Like, because as we've discussed, religion is ultimately a subjective thing,
Mm.
and so what I think you're describing is when it's true for you, for me,
Yeah,
and you suddenly find that you are satisfied by the the Dharma, you know, and you don't need to be comparing yourself to and comparing and doing all this sort of
yeah,
mental gymnastics, as you said. You can just sort of be content, as it were, with the teaching of the Buddha. And I recently I saw a comment on Facebook by somebody, I guess someone from India, who is originally Muslim, and maybe he's now interested in Buddhism, or he posted on a Japanese Buddhist board anyway, that apparently I am a member of, although I don't keep track of the groups I'm a member of. But and in his comment though, he said like I have come to see that Buddhism is the only correct religion. And my comment
I
was,
agree. I agree. But yeah, yeah,
well, my comment was, um, Buddhism isn't, the only correct religion. It's a way of attaining awakening or enlightenment that was discovered and taught by the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. So where in that picture, and if you practice the way that was taught by Shakyamuni, you attain enlightenment. So where into that picture does the only correct religion
correct or
come
not
in?
correct? Yeah,
It is
yeah,
kind of
correct or yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
and so but anyway, and I too, I mean, I am always interested in other religions, other faiths. I think there's a lot of great stuff, but where is my spiritual home?
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's here
yeah,
in Jodo Shinshu, and I don't feel the need to, no matter how interested I might be and how much I even find that learning about other religions often kind of deepens my appreciation for Buddhism, and not just in a negative way, like, oh, other religions are so bad and in comparison Buddhism is so great, kind of, but rather, like, if you read the poems of Rumi, I mean, there is some great Sufi, incredible wisdom. Sometimes it's even very non-dual. It's very, there's a lot
Yeah.
of great.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely
And
there is yeah, in every religion
yeah,
has that core or strain of, you know,
yeah,
trying to go for that, the
right.
ultimate consciousness, do you know what I mean? And in their mind, I think it's what, if it's theistic, then it's a kind of God consciousness, or,
Mm,
you know, anyway, it's that transcending. There's any they each all religions have some kind of core of, or some kind of
mm.
one of their strains of it, or aspects of it, is it's trying to transcend our, our ordinary experience, our ordinary consciousness, or and attain the ultimate, whatever they believe that kind of to be.
Well, the word religion comes from, I think, the Latin religare, which means, well, basically to reconnect, So, and to connect with something that is higher, greater,
Mhm.
bigger than ourselves, whether you call that the universe or God, or the supreme Buddha, like we just saw in that text. And so I think I'm not a perennialist, just to be clear, or a
Yeah,
tradition,
yeah,
although
yeah.
there have been many Buddhists who were. And But I do kind of share a similar philosophy of religion when it
Mm,
comes to, it's sort of like a pyramid. And if you think about a pyramid, the part that's on the ground, you have this you have these seemingly vast differences. You have fundamentalists in every religion,
hmm.
right, who are
Yep.
constantly battling about their, you know, the most literal and therefore impossible interpretation of whatever their religion, whatever they believe their religions teaches. And on that level, you're down in the dirt. There's these vast, this is where the religious wars happen, right? on this wide plain of dust and who knows what. But then as you start to go up the pyramid,
Yeah.
what happens is things start to kind of get closer and closer. And
Hmm.
what you find, I think, is in a lot of religions, the differences, so to speak, that are very sort of apparent on the superficial level
Yeah.
start to kind of become less significant. So you end up
Mm,
at the top of the pyramid, you have, like John of Cusanus, and you have a Rumi, you have Shinron, you have Dogen, you have all of these people who each in their own tradition, but you start to see like, oh, wait, there's more to this than
yeah.
just the most, literalistic
Yeah.
fundamentalist interpretation. And so while I'm not a perennialist, I do think that analogy
Mhm.
of the pyramid is a very um, kind of useful
Mhm.
tool, I
Yeah.
guess you could use.
Yeah.
And let's not forget too that according to the Lankavatara Sutra, the Buddha the Buddha says, "I appear as a god or a whatever, a prophet, a priest, in the world in order to lead and to teach and to train all beings." So, it's kind of hard to say, um, we can't definitely say, oh, this person is a bodhisattva, right? It's sort of,
Yeah.
hard to do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I mean, I think a lot of people in history, not just Buddhists, by the way, it's not just that a Buddhist is a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva can appear as a
As anything.
Brahma,
Yeah. As any. Yeah. Yeah.
anything, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And and they use the Buddhism bodhisattvas use use those other religions to, you know,
Yeah. I
nudge
mean,
and put point, kind of ultimately point people toward the
mm,
truth,
yeah,
toward the ultimate, truth. And yeah, so I mean, I guess the thing to say is it's unequivocally true for me, I guess.
right. Yeah,
So,
exactly. That is
um,
the important.
and
That is the most important part, right?
that's what I guess I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. And you know, um, it's not a thing about, well, who's the best and who's the, it's just,
Mm,
um, I'm certain of this now, or have been made certain of this.
yeah.
Speaking of, been made to be certain of this.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
so I guess that's the kind of the best way to put it. Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me, though, if that's the case, that in those other, with that pyramid, that's how it works, and that people arrive at those conclusions through, because the Buddhism bodhisattvas are helping them, pointing toward
Yeah.
pushing them toward that top of the pyramid, scheme, as we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
Come up,
the-
come
you
up
know,
higher,
yeah,
higher
yeah,
ground.
just
Come up to where
nudging,
clear is
over,
clear.
many, over, countless lifetimes, using whatever religion they're in to, or spiritual path they're in, to point them
Yeah.
toward the, suchness, toward nirvana, toward the truth, the ultimate
Right.
reality as it truly is, type of thing. But anyway,
And let's not forget
speaking of,
too.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent too much. I
Oh, no,
just,
no, no.
yeah,
I
so,
think it's important.
but
I think I was going to
it
say
was,
too, that truth is totally beyond words and concepts
mm,
and all of our ideas anyway,
hmm,
And so
hmm.
again, even Buddhism is the finger pointing at the moon.
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
So
exactly, yeah,
and
yeah,
so the truth is, completely transcends
yeah,
all of it anyway. Um so anyway, that was a bit of
yeah,
a
aside,
detour, let's say.
yeah,
But an important one. There are unfortunately some people who pretend to be Buddhists, or maybe think they're Buddhists, and they think that they need to like badmouth other religions and attack other people's beliefs and so on. And if you notice, the Buddha never did that. Shakyamuni never
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah. He said, he would tell people, well, here's why my path is different from yours, you know.
yep, yeah,
And then he would leave it to them to, he didn't tell his monks, arise, monks, and take up your rods, and let's go beat some sense into the the heretics next
yeah,
door.
yeah,
He never, ever,
yeah,
ever, never. So, and
yeah,
that's
exactly.
something that I think people are drawn to Buddhism by, is the tolerance and the respect
Mm,
for.
mm.
Now, unfortunately, hasn't always been the case historically. We haven't
But
Buddhists haven't
you
always
can
lived
you
up to
can fairly
Shakyamuni's.
confidently say their behavior and what they decided to do or are doing is not, it's not based on their Buddhist teachings,
Right.
if they
It's
act that
based
way.
on human ego. Yeah.
Whereas I'm not sure some other religions you can say the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so that's where I guess, part of it too is, I look at the consequences, you know, overall, of Buddhism in the
Mm,
world versus the
mm,
consequences of other religions in the world. And it's just, it's kind of another way that I sort of look at
mhm.
it. That, I'm glad I'm a Buddhist. We'll leave it at that, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
glad to be a Buddhist. I'm proud, yeah, I don't want to say proud to be a Buddhist, but again, because I'm a bamboo, so yeah, yes, I am proud, to to be a Buddhist. But anyway, so but it's it's or I'm glad, just very glad and to be a Buddhist. I'll just leave it at that. I won't, but yeah.
Mm.
So and anything I could,
That's come on.
all this comparing and trying to you know it, that's not, that comes from ignorance. That's
Yeah.
not it, in the Buddha mind, there's none of that. That's not it's just no need for it. It's just, oh yeah, that's what those beings do in samsara. That's what we do. That's what we that's what
Right.
that's the nature of, that's the natural working of karma in samsara, that people behave that way, but or think that way,
Yeah.
or but anyway.
It's
Yeah.
like the famous, well, you mentioned the pyramid, but also the famous Buddhist parable of the house. And there are many ways to the top of the house. There's
Mm,
not just one way,
mm,
one
mm.
way. You can go up the ladder, you
Yep.
can climb the wall. There's many ways to the top of the house, right? And also, very important, sutra or sutta, I guess I should say, since it is in the Pali Canon, but the Grain Sutra, the one where um, one of the Buddha's disciples is teaching, and then a king in a nearby kingdom asks him, "Well, is this what the Buddha said, or are you just making this up?" Like, which is, sounds good, but is this really what the monk Gautama says? And he says in reply to that, "Well, let's ask the monk Gautama." So they do. And the Buddha says, well, okay, imagine that there is a huge pile of grain in the middle of a clearing. And villagers are coming and they're filling their pockets, and they're filling their shoes, and they're filling, their hats, and they're taking away this grain, okay, and being fed by it. And he says, that's what the teaching we teach is. It's just anybody can come, and the grain is grain, right? The truth is the truth. So in the Buddha says, whatever is well spoken and true is the teaching of the awakened one.
Mm.
And this is an important sutra because it's it also shows the Buddhist attitude towards sort of sources of authority in the scriptural sense, because we don't have to like establish that every single line of every sutra was literally spoken by the historical figure of Shakyamuni, right? It's all the truth of the Dharma, and in that sense, it is what the Buddha taught, or Buddha Bhakana. And I think Nagarjuna, in his defense of the Mahayana Sutras, also maybe made use of that. So it's all grain. It's all good. Whatever is good and true is the teaching of the Buddha, even if that's not called Buddhism.
Mm.
And so it's important to keep that in mind,
if
right?
if it if it ultimately comes down to, is it something that is about suffering and the end of suffering, if
Right. Yeah.
that's
And
what
is
it
it
points
something that
people
brings
toward.
peace and loving kindness and understanding and release of of suffering and of stress? Does it make people angry and tense and worse off, or does it make them better off?
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's probably the 14 unanswered questions kind of come in here as well, that
No, no.
these comparing with other religions and this and that, that's it's it's not really relevant, like the ultimate cosmology stuff.
Yeah.
It's not, it wouldn't add anything to, for Buddha to have obviously Buddha did explain, yeah, this is kind of how, for you
Yeah.
to understand it, this is kind of how samsara is set up with the different world, this is how it is, the different worlds, and
Mhm.
but beyond that, and yes, it's good to know that, and to to contemplate that, but and understand that it's also consciousness as well as these worlds that beings are in. But
Mm,
beyond that, all the
yeah,
questions of, well, is it eternal, or all these kind of
right.
metaphysical questions that they wanted to ask. He was like, irrelevant, not relevant, not going to
The
help
noble
you, not helpful,
silence.
not helpful. It's not going to help you. So I'm not going to answer that. I could, I could, because there's lots of other leaves besides the ones I'm showing you, but you know that but it's not going to
Mhm.
help you. So I think somewhere in this, that somehow this
Mhm.
trying to compare, you know, Buddhism
Yeah,
to other religions, is there's some of that in there, that look, this is all these kind of metaphysical
yeah,
questions. They're not helpful. So just if you're a Buddhist, yeah, stick with that. Be glad that you're fortunate that you encountered that, you had a human birth, and you could encounter the teachings, and probably have
right.
in the past, and be grateful for that, and go with that. Go with you know
Yeah,
So anyway,
totally.
sorry. So can we come back? Let's sorry, I didn't want to
Yeah,
get too far off on that.
absolutely.
I really didn't mean to have that be a major part of the discussion. So yeah, but it did need to be discussed and addressed.
It needed to
And
be said.
yeah, definitely. So
Um,
so coming
so
back
I
to,
would like
do you want to bring the
to.
text back up, or
I do. I
yeah,
do.
please.
Um, and the text I want to bring up is this one. Hold on a sec. Okay, so this is the text now that came to mind when uh when I watched your video. Um, for whatever reason, let's try to think whatever that reason might be.
Yeah.
Let me share.
Okay. The same text, or is this a different one now?
Different
This is
text.
different text. Okay.
Yeah, this is from the chapter on practice, or Gyo in Kyogyo Shinsho.
Okay.
Um, okay, so I'll just read it. It is
Hmm.
from number 78. Thus, when one has boarded the ship of the vow of great compassion and sailed out on the vast ocean of light, the winds of perfect virtue blow softly, and the waves of evil are transformed. The darkness of ignorance is immediately broken through, and quickly reaching the land of immeasurable light, one realizes great nirvana and acts in accord with the virtue of Samyanta Bhadra. Let this be known. Wow, I love this passage.
That might be a Hasu drop, I think.
Yes.
That might be a
Making
that might be a
sure,
Shinron Hasu drop.
absolutely. And what I love about this passage is this image of the ship of the vow sailing out on the vast ocean of light. And Shinron rarely uses this expression, ocean of light. Um, and it's basically the character for light and ocean. So, like, Gonkai is the
Yeah,
ocean, the vow ocean, the ocean of the vow.
yeah,
And this word is the same. It's the light ocean. And just, wow. What a cool, what an
yeah,
amazing image. Because when we board the ship of the vow of great compassion, and we sail out on, we are buoyed up by this light, you know,
yeah,
because of and it says the winds of perfect virtue blow softly, and the waves of evil are transformed. It's in this is to me is amazing because when we encounter the vow, all of our, we might often wonder, like, be frustrated by life and samsara. We're buffeted about by the waves of evil, whether they're our own, thoughts and blind passions, or things that happen, whatever it is, the whole deal, right? It's like this stormy sea of waves, just we're lost in the ocean of birth and death. But then those waves of evil are transformed. They're not annihilated. They're transformed into, like when Shinran talks about karmic evil being transformed into good.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's
That's what I
worth,
thought of. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, just to say it is like, you know, the meaning is so deep that I don't think anybody has ever been able to, like, just perfectly explain it. But I think this passage gives us a real feel of what it's like to board the ship of the vow. And of course, he mentions, once we realize great nirvana, we act in accord with the virtue of Samyanta Vajra, which means that we return to this world as part
Yes.
of our
Yes.
ongoing career, right? To
Yes.
enlighten. Um, and so
I mean,
this was,
that's the ultimate bodhisattva. That's, the ultimate
yeah.
embodiment, or do you know what I mean, of the
Mhm.
ultimate bodhisattva, um, kind of, acting in the world. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's what's called the nirvana of no abode, or of not abiding. In other words, not um not just simply resting in nirvana, but actually the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, stakes his attainment on the liberation of all beings. And this to me is really what is unique about Mahayana Buddhism, in my opinion. As if we're talking about world religions, this is the vow of the Bodhisattva is unique to Buddhism. It's not, in
Mm.
Christianity, God does not stake his godhood on the salvation of humanity,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and so this is uniquely uh, the Buddha Dharma, and very, very unique to Buddhism. And of course, in Jodo Shinshu,
And it's
it's
the
even
ultimate
deeper
expression
because,
of of the of the sort of Dharmakaya. It's the ultimate expression of the Dharmakaya, ultimate wisdom, ultimate compassion. It's like
mm,
the
mm,
inevitable kind of,
yeah,
you know, um, consequence, I guess, or of that, the ultimate
hmm,
uh, flow of that is that is the bodhisattva vows, or vow.
yeah. And of course, there's the four general vows that all bodhisattvas have to share,
Hmm.
and then there are the specific vows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the specific vows are the 48, vows in the larger sutra. Um, and of course, the four specific vows, or the four general vows, are ones that are shared by all
Hmm.
bodhisattvas.
Hmm.
Um, and those are, included in those is uh, beings are innumerable, and I vow to save them all. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, I wanted
The
to,
other one other thing that
yeah,
the thought
please.
I had about this is, well, a couple of things, but one thing is with Samantha Badra, isn't Samantha Badra another, or it's the true Samantha Badra is the original Buddha? Isn't there some tie-in to that kind of teaching? That Samantha Badra is the, do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
The Buddha of beginningless past. The There's a tie-in to that Adi Buddha, Buddha of beginningless past kind of teaching, I thought, which ties into Amida. Do you know what I mean? It's all, anyway.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah, it's
interesting thought I had.
I
In the
think,
provisional teachings, um, there's teachings about that. I thought there's some indicator that Samantha Baldra is actually a manifestation, or ultimately an expression of, I guess, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are that, I guess, in a way. But anyway, but it's specifically with that Bodhisattva that there's some tie to that. Anyway, kind of teaching, and also the it was more of uh, intuitive thing here I wanted to say about when I was reading that. It kind of felt like what I was saying in that video. It kind of felt a lot like that, you
yeah,
know, uh, about that, this occurring to me, this,
yeah.
being made to occur to me. Um, um, Feels a lot like that, or similar to that,
Yeah.
the way that's described. Not that I can completely comprehend and understand everything about what was being said there, but my basic experience, it seems
Mm.
similar. there's a there's a there's a there's a bouquet, a certain bouquet of that
Mm.
there. But
Indeed.
and I also think of it when I have to say, my sci-fi mind, um when I hear the ocean of the light, the Vow-Ship, um
Yeah.
and because it's every direction, I'm thinking, I'm thinking in space, I'm thinking in, nautical terms, but in
Yeah.
space. Do you know what I
Yeah. The ship of the vow
mean?
in space time.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
images.
in every direction. Yeah, you're traveling in every direction, and
Yeah.
the ocean of, you know, but because because it's eh, that's essentially what it's kind of saying is the
Yeah.
ocean of
I mean,
light is in all the 10 directions, of
right.
every universe,
Yeah.
of every, you know, multiverse, of every whatever it is. Do you know? Um, but anyway, yeah. So
Well, it's a metaphor, right? So you can kind of imagine it
yeah,
however you
yeah,
want to.
yeah,
The ship, if you want to see the ship on the ocean of light as, a starship, I mean, it's perfectly fine. The important
exactly.
point is that it's something you get on, and once you board it, you're
Yeah,
assured of reaching your destination, right? That's the
yeah,
key.
yeah.
And
The
also
key
that it is
aspect. Yeah,
broad.
exactly.
It's broad enough to fit everybody without
Yeah,
discrimination. Those are the important images. I did want to really quick just share this. This is Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt, of course. But um, about Samantha Baudra is yeah. So it says Samantha Baudra, literally universal worthy or all good. Not sure if either of those translations are
the best.
the best, but is a great bodhisattva in Buddhism associated with practice of meditation. Together with Shakyamuni Buddha and the bodhisattva Manjushri, he forms the Shakyamuni triad in Mahayana Buddhism. And he is the patron of the Lotus Sutra, and according to the Avatamsaka Sutra, made the 10 great vows, which are the basis of the bodhisattva. So basically, Samantabhadra was the first to establish the bodhisattva career, as it were, establish the vows of being a bodhisattva.
He set the bar. He set the
set the bar, exactly. And that's why he's used in this passage as act in accordance with the virtue of Samantabhadra.
It's kind of like he's used in a lot of the sutras in a similar way. It's that, what's that word, that the you know, when you you know, the management team will get together and they try, you know, they look at okay, what's the best thing, you know, we will look at all these, you know, these people working for us, what's the, you know, what's that called, benchmarking. Benchmarking, yeah. That's it. Benchmarking. He's always the benchmark. Samantabhadra is always the you know, the ultimate benchmark for the bodhisattva, you know, pathway. Anyway.
Yes, and this Shakyamuni triad is also often, you'll see this in Japan as well. You know, it's kind of like the Amida triad. Shakyamuni, Manjushri, and Samantabhadra kind of like go together as a set, as it were. And then also in Tibetan Buddhism, it's the name of the Adi Buddha, often portrayed in indivisible union with his consort Samantabhadra. I'm pretty sure I can't show these images if we're going to keep this
right family friendly.
Let's just say that Buddhist art can be very sexy.
Very, direct, shall we say.
Yes. All right. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah. So there, that's kind of what I was, you know, the connection with the Adi Buddha there, and excellent. Thank you for that. So do you want to come? Was there any other text, or do you want to come back and look at those, the ones you've looked?
There is another.
Bring it on. Because I don't know if I don't think we've got. We might need to do another session with the same text, if you don't mind, because we did get off on that rather important but lengthy tangent, and I would like to come back and yeah.
Okay, so this is one that ties in. It actually follows right after the previous passage I shared. And this is from Tonlon or Donron. And Tonlon is massively important in Jodo Shinshu. Much of Shinron's thought on the Pure Land, the nature of the Pure Land, the nature of Amida, other power, is all traceable to Donron and his commentary on Vasubandhu's treatise on the Pure Land. And I do mention this because there are some like Pure Land schools that aren't Jodo Shinshu. And oftentimes all the times, not oftentimes, they don't have Donron as one of their, patriarchs.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know why Jodo Shinshu teaches some of the things we teach, it's because Donron is one of our patriarchs, one of the 12 founders, as it were, of Jodo Shinshu. So let me share this screen.
Yeah, he's he's claimed by many Buddhist schools in their lineage. Same with Nagarjuna is another one that everybody
Yeah, I don't
has
actually know how much Donron is
incorporated.
claimed by
Other
other schools, but
Oh no, he's not. Oh, okay. I thought that's what
so
you were kind of. I thought that's what you were kind of saying. Sorry, I misunderstood.
no, I was actually saying that other schools often don't have Donron. So, for example,
Oh, they don't have. Oh, sorry.
the
I thought you said the.
common what's it called? Like
I
the
completely
Chinese
misunderstood what you
Pure
were saying.
Land
Yeah.
School or whatever has like a lot of, I think, 13 patriarchs. But the first one is Shantou. And then they go on historically
Okay.
from.
Yeah.
So Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Donron are hugely important in
Yeah.
understanding
Key.
Jodo Shinshu
Yeah.
doctrine because they're like so many of our teachings are based on, well, if you ask, for example, why do we say that people enter into the state of non-retrogression in this life
Hmm.
rather than just at the moment of being born in the Pure Land?
Yeah.
Well, it's because Nagarjuna taught that, says that. That's in Nagarjuna's treatise. So you have to remember that Jodo Shinshu is a much broader synthesis of Mahayana teaching.
Hmm.
It's not only Shandao and people who came
Yes.
after
After
Shandao.
him.
It
Yeah.
goes way farther back in time
Hmm.
and in
Hmm.
history, than a
Hmm.
tradition that would only begin with Shandao, right?
Okay.
Um, in the same chapter on practice, um, there's this section on other power, tariki in Japanese. And I just wanted to read this. Other power is none other than the power of the Tathagata's primal vow. The commentary on the treatise on the Pure Land states, power of the primal vow. The great Bodhisattva, having realized the Dharma body, always dwells in samadhi and thus manifests various bodies, various transcendent powers, and various ways of teaching the Dharma. All of this arises from the power of the primal vow. It may be likened to an Asherah's harp, which, though no one strokes it, spontaneously gives forth music. This is the fifth aspect of virtue, namely the state of teaching and guiding. By the way, this is Donron. This is Tonlon
Okay.
in his commentary on the treatise of Vasubandhu. Know that the Bodhisattva, having entered the first four gates, has fulfilled the practice of self-benefit. Fulfilled means that self-benefiting has been completed. Know means that we should know that by fulfilling self-benefit, he performs the benefiting of others. It is not that he benefits others without being capable of self-benefit. By the way, I should comment here, the bodhisattva in this text is not, it's just bodhisattva. So it's not specifically saying who this bodhisattva is, if we just look at this text. But Shinron interprets the bodhisattva here as being Hozo Bosatsu,
Yeah.
as being
Yeah.
Dharmacara.
Dharmacara. Yeah.
And Shinron also, in his hymns on the entrance and emergence, makes it clear that Dharmacara entered these gates of practice, went through these gates of practice on our behalf.
Yes. Yes.
And we should look at that text at some point probably as well. But okay, know that the Bodhisattva, having entered into the fifth gate, has fulfilled the practice of directing virtue and benefiting others. Fulfilled means to reach the fruition, the stage of teaching and converting through the directing of virtues, which acts as the cause. Whether with regard to the cause or to the fruition, there is nothing whatever that does not work to benefit others. Know means we should know that by fulfilling the benefit of others, he performs self-benefit. It is not that he performs self-benefit without being capable of benefiting others. So this is the flip side of the one up here, right? For by
the
having
bodhisattva acts with is just perfection, acts with acts, you know, it benefits everything.
Yes,
everything that they do benefits everything.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, the benefiting, because a bodhisattva has gone beyond the I, you, duality, dichotomy. So all of the bodhisattva's actions are performed without discrimination.
Exactly.
And so for the bodhisattva to benefit others is to benefit the self. To benefit the self is to
That's
benefit
what I mean.
others.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Perfect, as you said. For by having thus performed the practices of the five gates and accomplished both self-benefit and benefiting others, the Bodhisattva has swiftly realized Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Dharma that a Buddha realizes is called Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. He is called Buddha because he has realized this Bodhi. This is a way you could say he is called awakened because he has realized awakening. Right? He swiftly realized Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi means that he quickly attained Buddhahood. An means un, Uttara means excelled, Samyak means right, Sam means all-pervading, and Bodhi is translated way. Taken together, the term is translated unexcelled, right, all-pervading way. Unexcelled means that this way thoroughly penetrates true reality and reaches the ultimate nature of things. Nothing surpasses it. Why? Because it is perfect. Oh, there's that word again that you used. Right refers to enlightened wisdom. Because it knows things just as they are, it is called right wisdom. Because Dharma nature is formless, enlightened wisdom is no knowing. Now, this is interesting because this goes back to the letter on Jin and Honi where Shinran says Supreme Buddha is formless, right? Because Supreme Buddha, Dharma nature, there's actually no difference. So it's the same. Exactly. Dharma nature is the Buddha, right? All-pervading has two meanings. First, the enlightened mind knows all things everywhere. Second, the Dharma body universally fills the Dharma realm. Neither the body nor the mind ever fails to be present everywhere.
Everywhere. Boom.
Way refers to unhindered way. The Garland Sutra states, those unhindered throughout the 10 quarters have gone beyond birth and death upon the one way. One way is the one unhindered enlightenment. Unhindered means to know that birth and death is itself nirvana. Such Dharma gates as this one, teaching entrance into non-duality, reveal the unhinderedness of enlightenment. Wow. And yeah, so first of all, neither the body nor the mind ever fails to be present
everywhere. Yeah, it made me think of what I was describing of my experience, of that video. that, you know,
Yeah, exactly. And
it's all here.
so this is what
A bit of
came
mind
to
to seer.
mind, you know.
Is that what you, is that what came, is that
Yeah,
the,
and this ties into the Jinin Honi passage because um, he's talking about the the Dharma body, right, of Amida is everywhere, universally fills the Dharma realm. And the Dharma realm just means everything that is, right?
yeah,
Um, neither the body nor the mind ever fails to be present everywhere. So amazing.
this is, and I
And
just
this
thought the
also this
Dharma
point
realm
to
too is a perfect, it, because it's Dharma realm encompasses Dharma nature, which is Buddha nature, which is, nirvana,
yeah,
uh, Dharmakaya, suchness, sunyata. But when it says Dharma realm, it also talks about the phenomena, all the dharmas that
mm-hmm, yep,
naturally exist because of the karma, the natural working of karma. So do you know what I mean? It kind of it encapsulates, just like what we're what's being said about it. Do you see what I mean? That
yeah,
phrase
yeah,
itself, it says, is perfect. It's the whole truth, you know.
yeah,
Samsara is none other than nirvana, all that. It's in there. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's so crazy that it's so, in a good way. I mean, it's so mind-blowing, amazing how the the words of the teaching just encapsulate so much, as we were saying earlier, are multi-dimensional
mm-hmm,
and just so
yeah,
perfect, so whole. There's no, you can't you can't add to it, you can't take away from it. Anyway,
yeah, yeah. And I think that's pretty much the end of the passage that I
they
wanted
wanted
to
to,
share.
yeah.
It does, of course, go on, and there's a lot. I mean, it's all great, but
No, thanks for,
and it
yeah,
ends.
because we don't, a lot of our focus is often on the Pure Land Sutras and Shinran and Renyo. We mention, there's a lot of mentioning of
Hmm,
the other Dharma masters, and and they're very extremely important. But how often do we actually go in there? And
yeah. Well, the
probably
answer
another
is
reason to read the full collected works, because Shinran did. It's another reason to read all the collected works, because
yeah,
Shinran goes into detail and brings in all of their
yeah,
thoughts and
and
writings and conclusions, and yeah.
yeah. The great thing about Kyogyo Shinsho too is every chapter when Shinron quotes the
Mm,
Pure Land masters, they're quoted in chronological order. So there's first Nagarjuna, then Vasubandhu, and so on in
yes,
order.
in
So
order
it's
of
it's
the
all very it's very well structured is
mm,
what I
mm,
guess I'm
and
trying
brings
to
you
say.
to that conclusion. Brings you to the
Mm,
true teaching, the essential teaching. Brings you through the
exactly.
seven, through the Pure Land Masters to the essential teaching.
Yep. And okay, so that was the
Yeah.
passage I wanted to share. Now there's a Tonlon bonus round.
Okay.
um,
Bonus round.
yes, which
Bang, bang,
is
bang.
related to what you were mentioning about the 9 grades of birth. Um, and this again is a very important passage. Uh, he says, although there are initially 9 grades among those aspiring for birth, now in the Pure Land, there are no distinctions
Oh,
whatsoever.
there it is.
It is like the waters of the Tzu and Shang, rivers, becoming one in taste upon entering the sea. How can this be conceived? So this is very important passage showing that
Yeah.
the 9 grades are a provisional distinction that only applies to this world. And once people are born in the practitioners born in the Pure Land, it's like rivers becoming one in taste, entering the sea. There's no discrimination. It says no distinctions whatsoever. And then one more.
I think that's the closest to hearing one of the where he says, "How can this be conceived?" That's the closest I've ever heard to one of the Dharma masters saying, "My mind is blown." This blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of going.
Yeah.
It's the closest I've seen, I think. Anyway.
Okay, one more round, bonus
Other
round.
than Shinron. Shinron says things like that, I think, but yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. Further, the treatise states, concerning the fulfillment of the adornment of the virtue of purity, the Gotha states, contemplating the features of that world, I see that it transcends the 3 realms. And then this is Donron's commentary, Tonlon's commentary. Why is this inconceivable? When foolish beings possessed of blind passions attain birth in the Pure Land, they are not bound by the karmic fetters of the 3 realms. That is, without severing blind passions, they realize nirvana itself. How can this be conceived? This, of course, is very important in Jodo Shinshu doctrine, and is also, of course, in Shoshinge. And the fact that without severing blind passions, we attain nirvana.
Yeah. Okay.
So
it's the where we have the Buddha mind, but we're still bamboo. It's it's that in Shinjin, the Shinjin settlement. We're both. We have both, or there is both. It's hard to describe it, but yeah.
So anyway, bonus round.
Yeah,
is over.
Nice. Yeah, definitely applicable to.
Now, again, like you said, we tend to only talk about Shinron and Rinyo, but the 7 Pure Land Masters, 90% of Kyogyo Shinsho is their writings.
Explaining, yeah, this is where it comes from. This is nothing, this isn't anything new to Buddhism, basically. It's nothing original to.
Yeah. And Shinron never claimed to be founding a new school.
Exactly.
Either.
He's a Buddhist. Yeah. He's a follower of Shakyamuni, disciple of Shakyamuni. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, and specifically, he faithfully transmitted what he learned from his teacher, Honin Shonin.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
all right. Well, I guess probably we've running out.
Yes, we've this discussion has gone on for as long as it had to, as always. So no, it's in a good way. In a good way. It's always in a good way. So let's finish. So yeah, thank you. But I'd like to kind of come back and revisit them. All through, all the passages you've said, maybe in the next episode, without the tangent, because there's probably a lot more that can be, and I want to come back to it anyway, because I think there's a lot more that can be said. Can you just remind me and send me those on Messenger?
Sure.
The 4, or including the bonus round. And so I can look at them and
absolutely. And then also with regard to the 5 gates that the Bodhisattva goes through in order to perfect his practice. We should probably take a look too at Shinron's hymn on the entrance and emergence, because
Okay.
that's pretty significant stuff for how we, view Dharmacara, Bodhisattva in Jodo Shinshu. It's
Yeah.
quite the
Yeah.
unique perspective, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And it's interesting. I'm just occurring to me now, almost from the beginning in this life, where I
Mm.
explored the Pure Land teaching in Jodo Shinshu specifically, all those years when I started all those years ago. Almost from the start, it's always been in my consciousness, or in my mind, or in
Mm.
my just automatic, that this is from many years ago. I remember is that we're coming back. Be right back. There's not. It was always this active thing. We
Yeah.
get to Pure Land, but immediately then the action begins. Then
The real
the
adventure
real,
begins.
yeah, like we're gonna be come
Yeah.
back as bodhisattvas, multiple forms, inconceivable forms everywhere, and then we're going to be going to other Pure Lands and making offerings, going to other Buddhas, making, you know what I mean? Like it's, you know, it, me, it was, there's not, it's always been this active thing, the that bodhisattva aspect of being born in the Pure Land. And immediately you become a Buddha, but you're immediately a bodhisattva. You're immediately in the worlds again. You're just,
Mm.
and that's always been in my mind. And um, where I've, and so when I would think of different things, like the people that I have loved in life, or the people I have hated in life, or the people that I've had really good relationship with, I've had difficult things, do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
all the beings I've encountered, animals, insects, whatever, that I've behaved really well toward, or not so well toward. Do you know what I mean? As far as insects, I was thinking the other day how, when you're a kid, how you just learn, just how we just casually just would swat flies. And do you know what I mean? Like that was
Yeah.
just, it wasn't even, I was just thinking, and now I look back and I'm like, I can't even imagine thinking that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you, how, do you know, it's the nature of, samsaric beings, where, but, anyway, that's a tangent, but like, you know, that's what I meant by, where I haven't behaved well toward, other
Mhm.
creatures, was, you learn that, or just instinct, like, oh, I'll just swat the fly, I'll kill the fly, or kill the spider. Like, what? Like, do you know what I mean? It just seems like so, you know, uh, to
Uh,
me, and for a lot of my life, my adult life, I've thought, how could we be so casual about that? Anyway, but all those beings and all those relationships and all, they're the first ones that we have karmic ties to, for good or bad, are the ones we're helping. Like, and that's just been weirdly, all of that has been always associated with this teaching, that
mm. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is just the case. This is what you'll be doing. And it has probably almost been the only, probably the main thing that stayed consistently in my mind about it.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Uh,
Mm.
which is, that's just occurring to me now in this discussion, that bodhisattva aspect of being a
Yeah.
Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, being, and being born in the Pure Land, or being unborn in the Pure, I guess it's a better word, I think, but that is just always been first and foremost in my mind
Mm.
throughout, whereas I might have been confused about this or about that, or not, haven't really comprehended it, or hadn't, asked other aspects. That has always kind of consistently been there right from the beginning.
Yeah,
Interesting.
which is
It
great
just never,
because
occurred to me before that is the case. Which is
yeah,
such an important part of our spiritual path.
right. Yeah, and I mean it's like in the letter we read at the first, Amida vowed to bring us to become supreme Buddha. And then Mujo Butsu means um, you know, no, it's a character for no, and it's a character for higher, pointing up, and then Butsu, which is Buddha. So the supreme Buddha is that, you know, more than which there is no higher, reality than supreme Buddha. It's or ultimate Buddha, if you want to say. And so once we become supreme Buddha, then necessarily, and Donron Tanlon talks about this too, is because the Dharma body is formless, never does it fail to take on all kinds of forms in order to, to
Yeah.
reach.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of, we can't even imagine what that
How
is.
can this
But
be conceived?
how can this be conceived?
That's gonna be stay with me now. That question. How can this be conceived? That's gonna be my go-to
And
whenever I
it's enough. It's
yeah.
enough to know that it's inconceivable.
Yeah,
We don't have to,
exactly.
wrap
Yeah,
our minds. Not that we could,
exactly.
we love to.
Exactly. No working is true working. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you very much for
Yes.
another
Thank you. It
good
was, as
discussion session.
always, a great discussion.
And great passages, great. Yeah. And I can see why those came, strongly to mind. It's quite affirming,
Mm,
that is the case,
yeah.
that's Amida is working, not, you know what I mean? It's something true is actually happening.
Yes. Just
uh,
remember that what Tonon says is the body and the mind, neither the body nor the mind ever fail to be
to be
present
present
everywhere.
everywhere. Indeed. And on
With
that
that,
note, perfect.
that
Yeah,
would be a perfect note
perfect.
to for some Nimbutsu.
Exactly.
All right, Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo
Namo
Amida
Amida
Butsu. Namo
Namo
Amida
Amida
Butsu.
Bitsus. Nama
Namanda Butsu.
Nam
Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Nam Nam